Welcome to the NVIDIA Omniverse live stream. Pleasure to have you with us today. We have a very special guest. Two special guests, but one super special guest. He thinks he's ordinary, but he's very not ordinary to me. Alan Kent goes by the name of Ordinary Animator. Very nice to have you here, Alan. What's your tag on Discord?
Ordinary Alan.
Ordinary Alan, okay. Ordinary Alan. Alan is a big poster, a big community member on Discord. Also posts great articles. We're going to post his link in the chat in a second so you guys can look at his blog, which is called Extraordinary. Very, very cool stuff. We are going to go into his workflow for how he, as a non-professional animator, how he leverages tools and OpenUSD to work on an animation project. And then, as if that wasn't enough, after that, we're going to show off something Richard has been working on for a couple days. Actually, he spent some time on it this weekend, then had to shift course a little bit on the theme. But in the last 24 hours, has pulled off a really nice hat trick, I'll say. And we're going to show off his work in RTX Remix. As you know, we had that great live stream last week. We'll get into that a little bit. But first, I want to thank also Amelia and Greer, who's helping on the marketing side and also helps with these slides that we present every week. Amelia's working on the background, and she'll be posting links throughout the live stream. So big thanks to Amelia. We are very excited. I can't tell you how much running around there is right now at NVIDIA as we prepare for GTC. Richard and I included. We are super excited. Not only have all the sessions been posted, and now we have topic pages. We have a nice forum post we'll put in the chat in a second, where you can look at all the different topics and you'll see sessions related to that topic. Makes it really easy to set up your schedule. I really hope that everyone who's watching this is able to register, even if you can't make it for the on-site, which happens from March 18th to 21st. There's the sessions. There'll be sessions virtual as well that you can watch live, and then all the sessions will be available afterwards. But the real power of GTC is being there and being able to ask your live questions with the presenters, network with other people that are there, other users, other businesses and partners. We're going to have an OpenUSD day with content around OpenUSD and workshops. We even have an OpenUSD happy hour. With that'll probably be a lot of fun too. So really looking forward to it. If you are going to GTC, we would love to hear from you so we can help set up a meeting, or if we can help you set up a meeting with someone else who's going to be there, whether it's someone in NVIDIA or a partner, we can help facilitate that. So feel free to join us and check out the session catalog right after this stream. It's coming up really quick, 6 weeks away. We also have the Isaac Sim and Ross office hours are in full swing now for 2024. The next one is happening on Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific. Feel free to check the event calendar if you want to make sure those are added to your own calendar. It's a great place to ask your questions live. What the typical format is, they're going to present a certain feature of Isaac Sim or Ross, and then they'll take your questions live. It's super informative, very helpful for everyone out there who's working in Isaac. Lots of great conversation in all those chats. And then finally, we have the YouTube series for the Universal Scene Description Learning Series, curated by Aaron Luck. Great content there, really nice bite-sized chunks of OpenUSD information. As I say every week, there's information there for veterans and also very helpful people who are just diving in for the first time. It is a YouTube a link that gives you access to several different videos. I think there are 4 right now. Very easy to digest also. Okay, so very happy today. So Alan has been a member of the community for a while, and it's super exciting to have him finally come on a live stream. He was waiting for something that he had to we could really get everyone's teeth sunk into. And Alan, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit so people know a little bit about your background, and then why don't you tell me a little bit what you're going to show off today?
Sure. So I used to get into computer animation actually many years ago just as a hobby. And so I've just been tinkering for actually since university days, just doing little projects. But one of the projects I was trying to take on more recently was trying to tell a story with an animations and getting into that side of things. And it's actually a lot of fun, but I actually discovered there's one thing I enjoy doing even more, which is tinkering with all the technology behind trying to tell stories, and that's ended up where I've spent more of my time. I've got a few episodes out, and I look back at them and I say, actually, they're not very good at all. But it's to me, it's a lot very interesting to work out how to leverage all these technologies, and like I really think we're going through a bit of a golden age right now because there's a whole lot of technologies becoming possible. There's the generative AI. Like when I first created an episode, I almost gave up. And why? Because I couldn't draw a background. Okay, I had all the characters drawn. The amount of effort to actually put them together a background almost killed me. And so now, you want a background? Tap, 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 generative AI, bang, you got an image. You can get a background now, it's possible. Another one was voices. I wanted a set of characters, and I tried using some friends, and they started moving interstate, or just life got too busy. Well, now text synthesis is actually good enough. Things like 11 Labs have got enough rich emotions you can get into the voices that it's actually now, is it going to be like as good as what you see on TV? No, it's not. But it doesn't look terrible anymore. And so you can now start to get all these things. Another one is animation, of text to animation. You got a custom animation clip. There's a whole lot of technologies like Move AI and Deep Motion and so forth. But there's all sorts of ones, people now are trying to do the text to animation clips. And so now you don't have to actually animate it. And I think it's just, there's a lot of these technologies all coming out around about at the moment, making it possible to actually do this. And you couldn't have done it a few years ago. So what I'm going to be talking about today is actually a number of the little experimental projects that I've been doing, just tinkering with the various technologies. I'm also going to be showing off some of my work on a sort of a more commercial project that I'm sort of just playing around, and I'd love to get feedback. Is it worthwhile? Is it not? At the moment, everything I've got is available up there for free. Anybody can use anything I'm going to show on this one, so you can actually play with it yourself.
That's awesome. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, I was going to say, but there's a little video, and it might help set the stage a little bit.
Yeah, let's play that. That's great. And first of all, I just want to say I love everything you're saying, and I think that the result of all this will be we're going to be seeing a huge inbound level of new art and ideas and just creative visions that just weren't possible a few years ago, like you said. So it's amazing what we really took a team of people now can be done with a team of one, also with limited technical experience. So let's watch this first video, and then this is a little intro. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
I'm telling you, darling, I've got the perfect strut, the flawless poses. I'm practically a fashion model. If the definition includes being as hollow as a 3D model, then sure.
I think I recognize that voice.
Awesome.
So that was your voice, right?
Yes, so I just recorded that myself, and pretty corny. So the idea of sort of saying, oh, I want to get a joke about 3D models and fashion models, and I typed it into ChatGPT, and it didn't do a very good job. And actually, but it's possible, and it comes up with ideas. But I still really believe that it's a human behind at the end of the day that actually makes these sorts of things interesting. And one of the questions I have, or one of the challenges I have myself, is recording my own voice versus computer synthesized voice. Because you get a lot more expression out of your own voice, and getting together with some friends and recording it. And so that's why I tackled that one first, because I actually think it comes across a lot more personal if you actually use people's real voices. But if I wanted to get into like my experiences in creating my own series, and I'm not a professional, so I'm just a hobbyist. So don't come along and say, oh, he knows exactly what he's talking about. No, I'm just sharing the experiences as a hobbyist getting into this thing. The things that hit me the most was the emotion. If you really want to get emotion across, it is things like your voice. It is things like the lighting. Do you want to blur the background? Do you want to do cut scenes? So it may not have come across, but at the end, the guy was sort of standing with his mouth slightly aghast at the end. And you just try and doing these little things, and nothing like it's sort of fun being your own movie director and trying to work out how to put all these cuts and shots together in a way that actually makes impact. Now, that little clip is using Miximo clips for the full body motions, blended in with my clips. And this is actually where the project started off. In Omniverse and other sorts of tools, I could, particularly in Omniverse, when I was trying to do this sort of work, there's a sequencer, you can play one clip after another, but I wanted to combine different clips. And so that's where I started from, is to say, look, I want to get a facial recording, I want to possibly get speech recording, I want to do lip sync, and I want to mash all these different recordings together, because that's how you do a playback in USD. You've got to merge all these different files together. And that's really where I started. And so that's we'll show a little bit of what the tool can do a little bit later on. But it's then it's a question of how do you put together these projects? And one of the things I really liked for USD, I didn't start on Omniverse. I started off on using Unity originally. And one of the things that sort of has come up is, one, my assets were trapped in Unity. And if I ever wanted to change anything, like I wanted to change a different rendering platform or I had to do a different tool, that tool had to be integrated with Unity. And the thing that appealed to me personally about USD was this idea of collaborative creation, which really came out of its original roots from Pixar, but getting multiple people together and say, okay, you can record that animation, I can record this animation, let's put them together, and somebody else can go off and build the scene for me and put it together. And one of the little projects coming up, for example, like you've got Nucleus for enterprises to share resources. And they're starting to see other projects external, like Cloud Zeta was one that came across just last week or so. And they're promoting themselves as a GitHub for assets. Okay, well, great. Now I can get multiple collaborators putting assets on this shared scene, get it all up there, and get these people working together on these projects. So if I got into a little bit of the technical sort of stuff of just how things get put together before getting onto the next side of aspect, is in USD and other platforms, there's different ways of animating. So if you want to move like a car along in the background, or you want to move a camera to do a zoom in sort of shot, what you can do is set a start point, you set an end point, and you specify these keyframes at a certain time, and then interpolate between them, and so smoothly move between those points. Great. But what happens if you want to animate a face? Well, the face has got a mesh, and there's a whole lot of points all over the face, which are all these surfaces and lots of clever things to make it look good. But if you want to animate a whole mesh, one way of doing it is you record every single coordinate, every single position at every single time. And some of the programs do that. And USD supports it, and it's got things like geometry caches and so forth. The problem with that is it's a bucket load of data, and it's a real pain to manage. So then you get into your skeletal animations. You put some bones into a side of character, you bind the mesh to those characters, and now you just have to move the bone around, and the mesh moves with the character. And great, that's all supported. But it's still quite hard to do facial expressions. How do you do a smile? And yes, you can put bones in a face, but another way they do it is with what they call blend shapes. So it's another form of animation where you actually, in some animation, something like Blender, you take the mesh, you deform it, and you say, okay, here's how you smile. And you can actually do a whole face smiling. But some standards came along, like ARKit. And what they did was they said, okay, let's define a whole series of standard micro expressions. Like, how do you move a lip up? How do you move the eyebrow up? How do you, and so now, and it came out back because the iPhone was capturing this data. And so just through standardization, there's now a whole suite of tools that support ARKit blend shapes. And the characters I showed before, they're from Vroid Studio. It's some free software out of Pixar. I like free things. And so you can actually design your own characters in it. But if you're able to queue up the next video 1.
Let's take a look at this.
This is pretty funny. And then just to clarify, so Vroid Studio, right? VROID, if anyone wants to look that up. Okay, cool.
And those characters are got on the site. They're free characters that came with the software. But you can design your own.
Great overview here. Okay, let's watch this first video.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's not much to see in it, but it's using the same ARKit blend shapes. And as a result, I just grabbed a character creator off the ActorCore site. It was on sale, $10. Woohoo! I bought one. I dropped the animation clips on, and it didn't work. Okay, so what I found out is not everybody uses exactly the same animation clip names. I had to rename some names. After that, it just dropped in. So I just had to do a little bit of renaming, and it just works. And so the same animation clips, and these are the standards that I think are starting to evolve in the industry, is making all this interaction and interchange possible. And this, like ARKit blend shapes, they're not new. They've been around for a while. There's all sorts of other capture tools around as well. But the blend shape animation is really what really makes the facial animation. And you just can change a few weights and it adjusts the face instead of having to try to control every single point in the face.
And you have a couple of blog posts on this also, right? Specifically.
Sure.
We'll post these in the chat in a second. People want to follow along because you have written extensively on this, which is awesome.
Yeah, I often blog things like as I learn something, I tend to write blog posts, and I write them for myself just so I can come back in a few months' time and still remember what I did, and I just make them public in case they're useful to anybody else.
I think they are. Okay, I just posted the first one in there. Go ahead.
Cool. So other sorts of animation, well, you got things like warp and deformables, and you got some interesting sorts of physics. But it gets interesting when you start trying to combine all these things together. Like, how do I combine the facial animation and the lip sync? And what I tended to find, for example, you get problems like, oh, I want to smile, so let's put in a smile shape. And then I want to do lip sync. So he's talking while smiling, and just the teeth start sticking through the skin. And so I'm not going to pretend all this stuff is drop dead easy. There's a whole lot of challenges that come along with it as well. But it's so much easier than it used to be.
Yeah, I did definitely. And then you have this this next video. This is with the pumpkin, right?
Yeah. So this one, and you can fire it up, and I'll just keep talking during the video.
Okay, let me see if
So the next one is when we get into what this one did is I went off to Sketchfab, and this was for the Halloween challenge last year. How did that happen? And so what I did was I found a pumpkin on Sketchfab. I loaded it up into Audio Deface. I used it to add a whole lot of blend shapes using ARKit blend shapes again. And then I used my tool to actually do the facial animation and drop it onto the clip. And it didn't actually take that long. And so one of the recent blog posts that came up actually on the NVIDIA stream was actually on trains. And I saw that and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to get a Thomas the Tank Engine train with a modern sort of thing? Like put a face, get a model on the front of it, get them to start talk and have the trains moving around. But that's another sort of project. But it is a lot easier to get all these different assets together. But it's not perfect. And I won't pretend all these things are perfect. So USD is very powerful, but they also often have multiple ways to achieve something. And so one of the extensions I've put up on my GitHub account is the Sketchfab assets do the meshes in a particular way, and Audio Deface didn't understand it. It was the normals, and there's a face varying. There's a whole lot of technical details I won't get into here. So I wrote a little extension. This is one of the things I like about OpenUSD is there is a Python API, and if you really need to, you can get in and transform the meshes. And so I wrote a little script, converted it over to a different mesh, that loaded up into Audio Deface, added the blend shapes, and managed to create that sort of video.
He makes it sound so easy, but obviously he's a very clever guy because that's where I run out of steam. But you just like, oh, there's a problem. I'm just going to write my own little extension in Python and make it work. That's amazing.
Well, the point is it's possible. And a lot of the platforms, they don't give you the full APIs, and then you get stuck.
Right.
And I don't like getting stuck. So maybe if we jump into the next video, which is just showing the tool I've built. So this is up live. Anybody can use it. And I'm just going to run through just using it just so if you want to try it yourself, because it's actually a bit of fun.
Very cool. And then I'm going to post that. So this is your website, right?
Yeah, video too.
Okay. So I'm going to post that, but I'm going to post the website also in the link in the chat so we can see what you put up there for everybody. And then now we'll go to video number 2. Let me see. Actually, video 3, right? Is this the pumpkin one? Or
yes, video 3. Sorry.
Okay, here we go.
Somebody's paying attention. So just go to ordinaryanimator.com/try. Turn on the camera. It may prompt you to ask permission to use a camera microphone. When you see the little record button go red down the bottom, it's ready to go, and you should see your face animating just as you move around using a webcam. I've only got 2 characters loaded up. These are 2 Vroid Studio characters that are available. You can check yourself, make sure it's all centered. I have a script frequently on the screen, and so I tend to recenter because I'm not looking directly at the camera. If the default camera is not right, you can pick your camera up in the top corner and so forth. Then you just hit the record button. You talk. It actually records audio. We're not doing any of the audio on this particular one, but you can do various facial expressions. hit the stop button. You can preview it with the play button. The interesting bit, though, is when you get over to ready to load it across, you go over to the USD tab, give it an output directory to write some files. This is all running in your web browser, by the way. And so when you hit the export button, it's writing out a set of USDA files, which is text. So you can just open up and have a look. One problem with doing it on the web browser, I can't generate MP3 files at the moment. So you've got to convert the MP3 into the WebM file into an MP3 file. But then you just open the stage up in Omniverse. So it creates a stage.usda file, hit the play button, and away it goes. And if you generate a PNG sequence from this with the transparency alpha on, you can superimpose this character over your own animation, over your own videos in video editing software. Or what we can do is you can load up a background image. So what we're just showing here is that there's actually some other animation clips in there. You can pull out the animation clip with just the blend shapes. I created a separate file for that. I also, and this is another sort of fun thing by having an API, is it'll get to this in a moment, but I actually created a animation clip that goes through all of the blend shapes. And so it's going to show it in a moment. This is just doing a playback of just the head and facial animations without the Mixamo clip for the body. But when you go through and pick the other animation clip and then start scrubbing through the timeline, and so I had to open up the timeline window down the bottom, and that gives me the scrubbing. You can now scrub through the timeline. The default timeline wasn't long enough, so I had to make it a bit longer. You scrub through the timeline, and you can see all the individual blend shapes from ARKit and then test out your model using it. And that's the sort of stuff you can just mess around with. Like, I'm a programmer, so I enjoy messing around with the programming side. But that's all possible because there is an API for using all of this.
That's
amazing.
awesome. That's really fantastic. And that's so anyone can use that at your website, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's completely free. And no, there are other tools around. Like, I'm not pretending this is the first time any such tool has existed. There are other tools. What I was interested in was just trying to grease the wheels. I want to make it easy to try and get up and going. And so the full project is actually going through, write a screenplay. I'll work out all the scenes. I'll work out all the shots, coordinate all the assets, allow you to do a recording for an individual shot, stitch that all together, and generate a USD project so you can then go off and render it in a platform of your choice. And by using USD, yes, you can use Omniverse, but you should also be able to use Unreal or Unity or any of these other platforms for rendering it if that's your preference.
It was really fantastic, very impressive. And if everyone out there wants to chat with Alan too after the stream, you should just head over to the Omniverse Discord. He's a very regular commenter there, helping people all the time. And that is just going to discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse. What channels are you mostly on? You're all over the place, but what channels do you frequent the most?
I actually tend to watch all of them just to stay up because it's all interesting. Like I'm not an Isaac physics expert, but I'm really interested in it because I want to be able to create a scene where all the boxes fall down. And I'd like to be able to capture that. Yeah. Maybe that would be useful for a scene. So, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. So I tend to sort of answer if I know something and I keep my mouth shut if I don't, frankly.
Well, that's great. Well, if anyone has any questions here for Alan, also feel free to post them in the chat. We have some nice regulars for. I see Pekka Varis is here, Omniverse Ambassador. Hey, Pekka. Papa Chuck, welcome to the stream. Captain is here. Data Juggler. Wow, we got the whole crew here. All right, so feel free to post any questions you've got, and we'll be sure to tackle them. And I think we have. Are we going to go on to hair next?
Yeah. So hair is one of those sorts of challenges. I like getting a bit of bounce into the hair. So if you move your head around, the hair sways a little bit with it.
Don't we all?
Yeah, but it's a challenge, but it's an interesting situation also and question with USD, which is one of the reasons I brought it in. So the first one we're going to look at is a video of I was trying out the deformables in Omniverse to do the animation of the hair. And you might kick it off and start playing with it. And so what you can do is I took one of my Void Studio characters that I created, and you can attach, you have a separate mesh for the hair. You can attach it via these key points to the head, and then the bits that are not attached can dangle down. So you see all the points at the top, because they're too close to the head, they're all fixed and they're not moving. I haven't got enough colliders on it. So there are colliders. You can see the collider around the arm there, and that's stopping the hair from going through the body. So you've got to put colliders all over the body, which I haven't done in this sort of example. That's why they're dropping into the front. But you can also see where it's attached too much. It's too static and fixed. And so it looks good and it sways, but I've got to do a bit more work there to try and work out how to get it attached so that enough of it moves and enough of it doesn't. So even though you can do it, there's still some more work to do there. But the animation then I can capture in that other tool, bring it across, and then the hair physics get added in Omniverse. But is it the right way? And the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no. So another way of doing it is to actually, and if we jump into the next video, what I'm actually doing at the moment is I'm got bones in the hair, and I'm catching the physics for the hair in my software, and then baking it into the USD file. And so the USD file includes all the bone animations. And one of the advantages of that is if you preview it, you'll get exactly the same movements every time. And you've got correct control of it. I don't have collider set here. That's why all the hair's going into the body. It looks stupid. Again, still got to set up all the colliders to try and stop that hair penetrating the skin. But my hope is that there'll be more advances in this sort of area to get cloth and hair and so forth not going through the body meshes. But it's sort of like, what's the right way in USD? And I think the answer is there isn't one right way. It really depends on your particular use case and what you actually want to be able to do and what the different platforms can do. And the flexibility of USD is it can support both. And you just then choose, do you going to do all the physics beforehand? You can bake them out as well. Like that, talking about that scene in the factory with all the boxes falling down. There's a stage recorder in USD. You can actually have all the boxes fall down and you can record it. And then later on, all you do is play back. Well, that's also useful if you're using something like Houdini. It can generate part of your scene in USD. Or Embergen for so if you want to get some fire or other sort of effects, it can generate its part of the USD scene. And so you can combine all these things together using different tools. And it sort of reminds me, some people in the community, like the GLTF space, say, look, GLTF is great for publishing on the web. USD is great for authoring. I don't think it's quite that. I think USD is great for collaboratively assembly of data together. Yes, you can author some stuff in USD, but there's nothing wrong with authoring the data in Maya or one of these other tools that's got its own internal data model, and then just export to USD when you're bringing all these different assets together. And that's the sort of the space that I'm more in, as I'm trying to use all these different tools around the place. I'm not trying to rebuild them all, but bring them all together.
Totally. Perfect point. You also have a video here on, let's see, some wind blowing in the hair.
Yeah. So the next thing, if you've got hair dynamics, you want wind. And this one is just showing how terrible it looks if you've got poor quality hair. You see it's sticking straight out backwards from it. And so you might think, hey, at least it's going backwards. That's one progress. But you want to get turbulence into it. You want to get a little bit more live and action and manipulation. So there's lots of problems to solve. I'm not going to pretend it's all done, but just iteratively working on these things. And when you hear about how Pixar makes movies, they go through multiple iterations. They do a first crude approximation. They get a bit of a feel of what a shot looks like and say, hey, is this shot going to even work? And then they iteratively refine it. And all these different people can come in parallel. One person's doing their lighting, another person is doing the animation, another person's working on the rigging and the textures and so forth. And they can, by intelligently organizing your project with USD, they can all work on their own files. You can bring it all together into the end project. And to me, that really is one of the power of USD for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great point. Let me see. You also have a nice blog specifically on wind and background trees here. So I'm going to paste this for everybody so you can follow along as well.
Yeah, because as soon as I got a bit of wind going and like the hair dangling and so forth, it was sort of like, great. Oh, but hang on, the whole background is static. And it's sort of like, isn't that a bit boring?
I love the way you're solving your own problems bit by bit. You know, you're taking the technology and you're making it your own. And if there's a piece of track missing, you just build it. That's great.
Yeah, or try and find the most appropriate solution for it. But I'm a big believer in starting from the problem. So I'm dabbling in lots of different technologies because I think they're all important to be able to create a better quality animation at the end of the day. And yes, I get a bit distracted because I enjoy it. I'll admit it, because I really should be doing other things, but we don't talk about that here. So then I was saying, okay, how do I get the trees in the background? And there's different ways of animating it. And so I just finished some work on blend shapes, and I'd go off to Sketchfab, or I'd go off to a different site, and I'd grab a tree, and there's no animation support in the tree. How do you go about animating it then? How do you just get a little bit of life in the background? And so what I tried doing, and it works reasonably well, and this is another extension that's up on GitHub, is it uses a blend shape, computes a blend shape from the mesh of the tree, and then you can just sway the whole tree slightly. And so if you play the next video, is it anything super exciting? No, but it gives the background a bit of depth. And so you might notice that the big tree in the foreground and the tall ones there, they're swaying a little bit. And that's actually a blend shape that got automatically computed from one of the NVIDIA assets. You ran the script over it, created a blend shape, added it to the asset. That blend shape is not part of the original asset. It's using the USD layering. So the original asset is untouched. I added another layer on top to add the blend shapes to it. And now you have a bit of a script, and you can make things sway in the wind.
Wow.
I think it was great.
So useful.
Yeah.
And so
I know that when you have the trees perfectly static, it always looks a little fake, a little still. That adds the magic touch. Especially
if you've got wind, or you're trying to do a storm. I mean, the things have got to move. Now, to do it well, the leaves should flutter a little bit more. I'm actually going to try, I still want to try out bones rather than blend shapes, because there's some issues, technical issues, that if you try and sway it too much, it stretches because the top stays horizontal, whereas a bone allows a more curved arc. And so I'm actually going to write another script to add some bones into it, weight paint it on, and go there. But that's for another day. Moving along, though. So, and my little puppy is trying to go. He wants to get on the show too. Okay. This is
let's see him.
Unscripted.
But oh my gosh.
There you go.
There we go. Fluffy puppy.
Give the people what they want.
Look at that. The fur physics on that thing. Crazy.
Yes. So the next sort of one, though, is things like background scenes. Like I've talked about it quite frequently in the thing in the Discord channel. How do you do, they often call them God rays, but it's sunbeams. And it's things like the DaVinci Studio. If you actually look at it, you get this lovely atmospheric effect of the light coming through. And to me, that's the sort of thing that lifts an animation up to the next sort of level. It can set a scene, it sets the tone, it sets the atmosphere before you get into it. And so that's what interests me about it, is how do you go off and do that? And it seems basically, in a nutshell, is you use fog and you make sure there's enough contrast in the scene. Yes, there's some settings you can fiddle around with it, but they're like, oh, is there all sorts of fancy technology? Well, actually, just make sure there's contrast. You need light things, you need dark things. Otherwise, the sunlight, you can't see it in front of the dark things when it's shining on the fog and the atmosphere. And so it ended up actually being quite easy if you set up the scene appropriately.
All right, let me see. Richard, I know you did a lot of fooling around with fog for your graveyard scene also. You're muted. He's coming.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mic was on me. Yeah, no, it's funny. And there's a comment on the chat that says, Richard, you promised me the graveyard scene, so we have to get around to that. But true. Yeah, no, I mean, right. Fog is just a question of adding that element to it, and then making sure you've got some nice flats or whatever. You can only see light when you put it through something. Light by itself doesn't do anything, but when you put it through a tree, or put it through a window, or put it through a fog or a medium, that's when you get those nice God rays.
And the next one I want to try in that area is, and I haven't got around to it. So many things I want to try, but I think it was from Embergem. But one of these products are generating smoke with VDB files, and so Omniverse also supports VDB files for rendering. And it's another example. Use one tool to generate the smoke and a bit of fog going through. Lower down the density. I want to try shining some light through that to see if I can get a bit more depth. Like variation and swirlingness to the fog, rather than just being flatter fog. It's a bit of fun though. The last one though is for backgrounds for me, is I found another problem was I want to jump from scene to scene to scene. The backgrounds were so much pain, and I talked about trying to use like generative AI to generate an image, and it works quite well. But if you want to fire up the last video clip, this was sort of like another area playing with. So I used generative AI. I said a path going through a forest with a bridge, and then I dropped my character into it. Well, how do I get my character in front of it? Well, what you do is you put the camera, you get the character, and you have a plane, and you're just projecting onto the plane. All very nice, but guess what happens when you try and zoom in? It doesn't work very well. And so there's another generative AI thing is to generate a depth map automatically from the image. You use that, you take the image, you put a whole lot of triangles over it, you project it out into space based on the depth map, and you can get this 3D sort of cave from a generative AI image. Is it great? No, it's not great. But you can get a little bit of motion into it, and you see it a little bit, and you just sort of say, okay, I'll use the bit that looks good, and I'll chop out the bits that don't look good. So I've pushed that too far. I can see the stretching on some of the trees, but it feels so much more real. Just if you want to get a bit of camera movement for a little bit more life there, all using generative AI.
Very cool.
That works so well.
I know. I'm so blown away how you tie all this stuff together so nicely, and you do some great experimentation, and I really happy that you're sharing this stuff with us and the community. And I think one of the great things that I think exists with people like yourself is this interest to help others learn from your own explorations, and you're not afraid to share and show. No matter what state it's in. I think it's basically just kind of your exploration and journey. So I really appreciate you sharing all this with us. It's fantastic. And so you actually touched on a bunch of different technologies. So let's just, in case anybody missed any of them, let's quickly go over. Maybe he's got something to say. Is that a boy or girl?
It's a boy. He's trying to talk, so I'm just trying to keep him quiet.
He wants his camera time, of course. So what are your favorite go-to technologies like today? Like, because you mentioned a bunch, and are you moving more towards one versus the other based on your journey?
So for my own sort of project, I'm interested in trying to. It's really a mix. I mean, the real reason I came, and it might sound a bit corny in some ways, but it's like I started off doing everything in Unity. And hey, there's actually a pretty good ecosystem around there. So I'm not saying it's a bad one, but I was hitting problems, and I just was hitting brick walls. And then, unfortunately, Unity had a bit of a rough time, and hopefully I think they're going to recover and get back on track. But I was completely dependent upon it. And I actually like not being dependent upon one sort of topic, because my project's going on for years because I'm not very fast and I keep getting distracted. And so I really like having assets that are not tied to one technology. Oh, I want to do a great fire. Oh, great. I might go off and use Embergem for it. Oh, I want to do, I actually want to share projects more with other people. And so that's why I mentioned Cloud Zeta before. I'm hoping more of these sorts of projects kick off and do well. And I'll get in a slight plug for them. They're still early on. They're still putting things forward, but they've already got a Google Colab notebook where you can actually write USD code now in a Google Colab, so you don't have zero software installs, and you can see the result of it. So it's a really useful, I think, learning experience. Sure, you can install Omniverse, but not everybody wants to go to the effort of installing Omniverse. No, it's not small. You still got to get a fair way to get through to get up and going. So, like, I'm actually looking forward to creating some little sort of like tutorial notebooks with it, just to get up and going. And no, you're not tied to them, but you get to learn the sort of technology. Character Creator is one. They do some great models and trying to bring them in, so you've got a variety of characters. Blender is sort of like one of those really Swiss Army knives that can do everything. I use Vroid Studio because it's free. There's a separate community. It's more from the VTuber. There's 50,000 different technologies, and my interest is more trying to work out the right one for that right shot, being able to bring it all in, but trying to do it efficiently. So my goal, what I'm trying to do in my project, is weave all these different technologies together. So no, I don't have a single one. Sorry. I have lots.
Well, that's awesome. And so if anyone wants to chat with Alan about any of this afterwards, on our Discord, we have a channel called Live Streams. Maybe that's the best channel for this, to talk about this live stream. Feel free to ask any questions. If you missed any of those tools that he's using, feel free to ask there. And one of us will be happy to answer. Alan, thank you so much for showing this. I want you to stick around for this next part, because I believe Richard has done a little magic with one of your characters. But that was a great night. I really agree with Zia a minute ago, who said Alan's an explorer, and you are a great explorer. So thank you, Alan, for sharing all your wisdom with us. And Richard, you also have been exploring RTX Remix quite a bit the last few days. I think we were all pretty blown away by all the work they showed off last week live stream with Wendy and RTX Remix team. You wasted no time and spent your hard-earned weekend working on RTX Remix. What was your overall kind of experience like?
Yeah, it was great. I say it comes in two parts. It comes in a capture part, and then the actual RTX Remix, which is a piece of software you can enter, up-res it. And it works really nicely with the suite of tools we already have in the launcher, USD tools. So I wasted no time. I'm a bit of a gamer, and any excuse to go install old games was great. So I just went and installed Portal, one of my favorite games, and I just did a little capture experiment and just to see how it works in USD. It's interesting to see the structure, like Alan said. It's interesting to see how the structure is formatted. With you have a primary USD, which is called like a capture scene 1, and then it refers to every single asset in the game as a separate little USD file, and it has its own textures, it has its own subfolders. So it takes a large game, which is very complicated to understand, and breaks it down into a really easy to disseminate scene, especially in USD. And once you have that scene, you're free to open it in various other USD compatible scenes, but obviously Remix is that tool just to really give it that extra amazing RTX edge. But yeah, I mean, I can. Do you want me to show some stuff?
Are you kidding? Yeah. So you're gonna be blown. You're gonna be blown away by Richard's about to show off. Richard, this is amazing. And he just did this. Let me see. Do you want me to play it, or are you gonna play it?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Do the video first. Do the video first. Yeah.
All right. So hey, watch this video, and then Richard's gonna do a little show and tell. But check this out. Man, that is wild. So one of the crazy things about RTX Remix is how much you can change the whole look and feel of something. Because you didn't touch the models or anything, right? It was all.
No, I mean, all I did was I had a little fun with adding spheres, because I feel that back in the day when that was made, real-time ray tracing wasn't a thing, obviously. And so it's very hard, if you know anything about game modeling, and you know a lot about games, is back in the day, you could only get very simple planar reflections, and they were just screen space, and they weren't really realistic. They were just experimenting with that a little bit back then. But they could never do a sphere, because, you couldn't get planar refraction. So I thought, well, the first thing I'll do is add a bunch of spheres and really push what is possible with RTX. And so, yeah, it was just a good way to show off the before and the after of an extreme scene, and it works with a lot of different games. I've just tried Portal as my first dry run, but when I get a little more time, I'll be downloading some other old games and trying that as well.
So next week you'll have an animated series inside a game with a backdrop.
Possibly, yes. I mean that's the thing, and I'm not obviously a professional modder But I like Alan, I enjoy messing around with graphics, and for me, it's just about me being in my old favorite games and having the power to do some creative art and just have a little fun with it, you know.
So I'm gonna play we have a nice trailer for RTX Remix, it's a little bit under a minute. So I'm gonna play that really quick so people have a better understanding of what RTX Remix is in case you missed the live stream last week. It's still up on YouTube, so you can watch it later. It's a great demo of workflow. But let's watch this really quick, and then we'll be right back. And then Richard's going to show us how he did some of that awesome magic we just saw a second ago. Man, that is awesome. And I love one of the things that was in the video was a little banner at the bottom said, use your DCC of choice, which is amazing. And I think that's what this is all about. All right, Richard. So spill the beans. How did you do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing I did was I captured the scene. So I downloaded the RTX Remix app in the launcher, and that comes with a little runtime, which is kind of like a separate part of the ecosystem. And then you can drag that. It takes a little bit of setup. So again, it takes a little bit of time to get it, but you can drag the executable into the root of the game. And when the game runs up, it then sees that as an overlay. So it's like an RTX overlay. I guess it's kind of similar to the way that the GeForce experience works. So it's an overlay that you can bring up just like in the trailer, and it hooks into the GPU buffer and it kind of interrupts that flow. And then you can say, okay, well, I want to enhance it with reflections or sometimes refractions. And so what's amazing about the runtime, which I didn't know, is you can actually enhance a game on the fly. So you don't have to necessarily download it and up-res it. The way that the product manager explained to me is that Remix is great if you want to up-res those models, up-res those textures. That requires the RTX Remix toolset. But if you just want to bring these old games to life with modern ray tracing, reflections, water, the runtime does a lot of that on the fly. It's really incredible.
That's cool as well.
So I was actually enjoying the game with the runtime running, but then I wanted to take it a step further. So there's a tool in there where you can just capture it and bring it down. And again, what's amazing is it saves it to a USD file exactly the same way that we're used to with the Omniverse ecosystem and other things. And so what I can do, I can show you if I share my screen. I just basically, I had it both in Remix and I also had it in Composer. And again, that's the beauty of USD. We don't really worry too much about your tool of choice. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So this is kind of the raw scene. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Portal. I'm sure somebody's out there has played Portal.
We've all heard of it. Amazing.
Yeah,
game.
we've all heard of it. So this is kind of like, I think it's like level 3 or something. And I just like these big chasms that they have. And as you can see, it's pretty basic. I mean, back then that was the game. There's a couple of effects missing. Like it's amazing. It captures lights, geometry, and effects, and it all does it in separate workflows. So if you go into the actual scene, you can see here that this is the structure. So I've just called this level Richard, pretty unoriginal. And in there, it's incredible. It has all the materials that you need. It has all the meshes that you need and all the instances of those meshes. And everything's ultra organized. That was the first thing that I was so impressed with. is not just it captures the scene, but how well it organizes the scene into a really easy format. So this is the kind of the raw vanilla flavor without, I've turned off some of the particle effects and things like that. And then what it can show you is the next revolution. So I took that basic scene and I did my own little variation of that. So this is what we're going to see now. It's quite different, but this is where I have a lot of fun. Yeah. So what I've done here is I've got this little scene I can play through. And somebody asked on the stream, like, why spheres? And I said, like I said, spheres are a good way to really challenge a real-time renderer with those reflections. So what's really incredible is I can just scrub through this. I've actually set my own camera, and I'm just scrubbing through this. And you can see this is running beautifully at 60 frames a second on my computer. And I can actually turn on path tracing as well if I want to add a little bit of extra pizzazz. So that just really helps with the lighting. But obviously, even in real time, it looks incredible. So the great thing is I can take that very basic scene and make it my own. And what I'm doing is here's my spheres I've added in, and here's the extra lighting I've added in. I can hide that, and you can just make it whatever atmospherics or whatever scene you want to do. You can save that USD file. And then you can layer it in with other USD software or even RTX Remix. So the next part of the challenge for me would be to put this back into the game potentially. But obviously that's the part of it I'm learning, you know?
I mean, it's so cool, man. And literally, like, how much time did you spend working on this?
Well, I mean, I will say that I was working on one game and then I changed my mind. So I kind of I was really having fun over the weekend.
Uh-huh.
And then I said, you know what, I should do Portal. So I actually put this together just really in a day or two. And I think it turned out well. It's kind of inspired me to do more game mod. And I think it's a good tool.
Yeah, and you, in terms of approachability or accessibility, technical experience, you think what kind of experience should someone really have before they start messing with this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too technical. I think the challenge for me was to make sure you understand how to install it and actually get it to run, which is fairly easy with the runtime. And once you get it to run, they call it getting hooked in. So once you can tell it's hooked into the game and it's reading the game correctly, then you can easily capture it. And honestly, the hardest part for me was just getting it to get captured. And once it's captured, it works great. And as a little fun, just to kind of transfer over from what Alan was doing, his great work too. I had to try Alan's technology for myself. So what I did was I actually got Alan's project, and I just to put it in here too, so you can actually see it working. Again, USD is all about linking things together. So I put Alan inside the portal environment.
I love telling stories.
You nailed the scale. Looks great.
The animation. But as a programmer, it turns out what I love even more is tinkering with tools.
Cool. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take Alan and I can I'm just going to throw him, put him at the bottom of this abyss or something, So yeah, it's great. It's a nice combination of my USD from the game and his USD from his character work. And I just love it. Just the fact that I can move him around in real time. We've got real time reflections there in the sphere. And who knows? Maybe we'll put Alan in the next Half-Life or the next Portal.
That's awesome. And the ModDB website lists the different games that have RTX support. So you can go there and take a look at games. There might be some games that have perfect environments for what the story you're trying to tell. But I think that is such a great example of a game that we all kind of know the look of, and you were able to change it into something significantly different looking really quickly with RTX Remix. So awesome. Very cool. We have a couple minutes left, I think. If anyone has any questions for either Alan or our Omniverse whiz, Richard, definitely feel free. As you all might know, Richard manages the community and is very active on the forums. So if you have technical support, we have the official forums where you'll often find Richard and many people from the community also jumping in to help other users. Feel free to use that for official support. If you want to chat with other users, a great place to go is the Discord, discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse. And while we have a couple minutes, I'm going to actually show something about GTC. We've got some a nice forum post that I think Amelia posted earlier, but I'm going to share my screen because we have sessions broken down by topics, which I think will be super helpful for you. Let me see. This is the one. Yeah, this is it. All right, so we'll post this link in the chat. But if you see here, nice big celebration of GTC coming in 6 weeks. Universal scene description was a big topic for today's live stream, as evidenced by Ordinary Alan's great work and also Richard's work with RTX Remix, which is leveraging OpenUSD as well to leverage all the different DCCs that you may be using to work together. So we have a bunch of sessions revolving around OpenUSD. There you go. Thank you, Amelia, for posting that link there. So we also have a full day of OpenUSD content. So you can check out the sessions there. Another big topic is SDG, or synthetic data generation. We have sessions revolving around that. Industrial digitalization. People might know our Omniverse ambassador, Michael Wagner, who recently formed SyncTwin, which is a great website for and service for kind of getting the metaverse up and going with your company and making digital twins easily. So check out synktwin.ai. Anyway, but we have industrial digitalization sessions there. Obviously, as Richard is an expert in, we've got lots of stuff on simulation, modeling, and design. Richard's actually background is heavily into AECO, right, Richard?
Yeah, my thing's buildings, and that's why when Alan was talking about characters and eyeballs and mouths sticking out, I was like, that's why I didn't do that. I'm all about, boring static buildings.
And if you needed another reason to go to GTC, look at this one. This is a great reason to go. Ashley will be there. Ashley, who's on the Omniverse team and hosts her own live stream series, Learn With Me. I think they just had one earlier today. Everyone is loving Ashley's live streams. A great place to learn live with Ashley as she dives into certain topics revolving developing with OpenUSD. So another great reason to go. Let us know if you're going, like I said earlier, so we can set up meetings. Great to meet with you if you're headed out there. Digital twins, like I just mentioned a minute ago, with Michael Wagner's company SyncTwin. A bunch of sessions around digital twins. And obviously also relating very much to Richard, lots of sessions squarely focused on creators. There's obviously one of the big things about GTC is going to be Jensen's keynote, and that webpage is up, so you can actually add that keynote specifically to your own calendar very easily. There's a lot of work happening right now to actually put together some nice content to show off in that keynote, and actually a great moment to ask anyone out there if you have something beautiful you'd like to share that you created, leveraging OpenUSD and Omniverse and your DCs of choice. Please let us know. We are putting together, I think, a short form for potential inclusion in some videos we're doing for GTC, including potentially the keynote. So we would love to include your work there. So if you've got something you're really proud of and want to show off to the world, get in touch with us on Discord or on email. You can email me anytime, edmar@nvidia.com. And of course, there's early bird pricing, which is in effect. It ends on February 7th. So you have 1 week left for discounted pricing for GTC. I hope all of you take advantage of that who are planning to come. No sense in spending more than you have to. And then again, we are planning some great things to do while you're out there. So let us know if you're going. Okay, I think that wraps up everything for today. Unless we've got any other questions, look at the chat really quick. Look at the idea. I can't agree more. Look at him, great evangelist, Alexander Levy. Great to see you here on the chat. Okay, so I think that wraps up. Alan, any last words you want to share with the good?
No, if there's any questions, somebody was asking for a link to the Collab notebook. I'll share that in Discord.
Okay, great. So head to the live streams channel on Discord, just called live streams, and we'll pop the conversation for today's topic there. Feel free to ping Ordinary Alan on our Discord server. Richard, any closing thoughts from you, and any wise words?
Just go try Alan's tool. It's great. It's really fun, and maybe attach it to your own character eventually, and then go try RTX Remix and have fun with that.
And thank you for those kind words from that user I just put on the screen. I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm not going to try to say it out loud. Anyway, it's been a pleasure, Alan and Richard, to you today. I think next week we have an amazing live streams with the folks from Cesium, so that should be a lot of fun. And if you're a fan and work in geospatial, definitely add that to your calendar. It's going to be a great live stream. Of course, you can always get in touch with us on Discord, like I said, afterwards. Until then, have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye all.